Well, Rich, thank you so much for being here. And I know we've got a list of questions and some amazing and remarkable things to talk to you about. But before we get into that, we ask every expert for a 3 feet from gold story. A story where you felt that you were up against a seemingly insurmountable wall, but either through faith, maybe a good book, maybe Maya, maybe family, friends, you dug down deep and you found what you needed to overcome that obstacle that was standing between you and your final destination or your greatness.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and to be aligned with your business. It seems like a perfect match for the things that I'm interested in pursuing as well. So I appreciate your efforts in helping me to get my word out there. And thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
So, 3 feet story. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that has multiple facets to it, and mainly because I think it does fit the bill, and it's an evolving story. I'm not sure I've met that 3 feet yet, but I'm approaching it. Basically, back in 1993, I took a job as a. I'm sorry, my dog's going to be playing with me. I took a job with a company that was a wholly owned subsidiary of a utility company, and it was very conservative parent company, and this was a financial services. There was a bill payment company which would basically contract with retail organizations. There was a system behind it. We would collect bill payments that people wanted to walk in and make cash payments, and we would then forward that information as far as data is concerned, as well as dollars to the utilities. And we did very well. I was the salesperson. And I was the only salesperson, and within 3 years, we became the #1 provider. And that's the good news and the bad news. The good news was that we were making good revenue. We were doing about $40 or $50 million a year. The bad news is that our operations did not keep track with that. And it's a very dangerous thing to move a lot of other people's money and not have good systems behind it, and of course be doing it from multiple remote points. And what happened is that I had overheard the then CEO talking about with the CPA, CFO, exactly what was going on, that there was a problem, and he kind of was casual about it and said, "It's not my money." I overheard that. Took it to the CEO of the parent company. I didn't tattletale. I just said, "I think you have a problem here, and you should look into it. And why don't you interview all these people?" And they did. Ultimately, what happened is I became the president, and I was faced with turning around a company that was very broken. The good news is that I was able to do that, and at the same time was going through a very difficult divorce. Then got married very quickly on the rebound. That wasn't working out very well. And so about a year and a half later, started another divorce. And what had happened was basically I was kind of lost. I was very happy in my career because that was going very well. But, I was looking at my life going, I'm not sure what's going on. My mother died very early in my life. She died when I was 17. She was only 39 of cancer. And I never really reconciled things with her. It was a difficult childhood. I won't get into details about it, but I didn't really have the relationship with her that I thought I should or that I wanted to. And when she was buried, certainly I was there, but I just didn't go back. I never went back to the graveyard. It's in New Jersey. I live in Connecticut. And for some reason, during the period where it was the most difficult time for my divorce, and the company was also in a weird place, I decided to visit my mother's gravesite. But I had no idea where it was. That was over 30 years ago or 40 years ago that she had died, and I had no idea where she was. So I called on my uncle, who was down in Florida, and he gave me directions. And he also tried to give me directions to the gravesite. This happens to be a very old and very established and very large old Jewish cemetery down in the Palisades area. And it's got tens of thousands of gravestones. There's if you don't know where to go, you're just never going to find anything. Well, I decided to brave the drive down to from Connecticut to New Jersey one great Saturday morning, and it was right around my birthday. This was in 1997. And so I drove down there. I get there, and what do I find is that it's not open. It's a very Jewish cemetery, and because of that, Saturday is the holy day for Jews, and it just is closed. And the administration building was closed, so the gates were closed, and I had no idea how to get into the graveyard. So I got out of my car and I said, "What the hell?" It was a 2.5-hour drive, so I'm not going to really, run right back home. And as I was just kind of standing there, just kind of pondering what I should be doing, I saw overhead, 3 ravens that seemed to be making a lot of noise. And so I looked at them and I said, "Yeah, you know what? Let me see where they're going." I have no idea why I did that. So I got in my car and I started following them. And they kind of took me a very circuitous route, about 2 miles down a road, then another road, then they turned right. I had no idea where I was. Well, they turned right as I was going down a road, and I saw that it was leading to what looked like a temple or something like that. And so I followed them. I went in, and what I found was that there was a back entrance to the graveyard. And I said, "I got to go in." Okay, great. So I got in. There was absolutely nobody there, not even a maintenance crew. And I said, "Okay, let me see if I can follow my uncle's directions," because he didn't give me any numbers. He didn't know them. He just gave me what he remembered, and he hadn't been there in a while, and he's 80 years old. So I was trying to manage that. So what I decided to do was to go back to the beginning where the main entrance was and see if I could follow his directions to the site. Well, his directions weren't very good. And I can tell you that I traveled for 3 hours and could not find the graveyard, the gravestones. So I, again, just said, I'm very frustrated. So I pulled over, got out of the car, pondered my navel for a little while, and lo and behold, I saw those 3 ravens again. I think they were the same 3 ravens, and they were making noise. And so I decided to get in my car and follow them. And they took me all through. There was 100 different rows, and many, many different gravestones in each of those. So I followed them for however long they wanted. They stopped, and I stopped. And then one of the ravens flew right past my window, and as I was watching him move past my window, I could see through a row of gravestones, very faintly, the word Popper, which is my mother's maiden name. I said, "Oh," and I got out of the car and I walked over, and there she was. My mother's gravestone was right there. So was my grandmother, who I'm named after. In the Jewish tradition, when somebody wants to be honored, or you want to honor somebody that died, you give them a Jewish name that has something to do with. So my Hebrew name is Ephraim, which means Frank or Francis, and her name was Francis. And my Tante Rosie, which is Aunt Rosie, not really related to me. She was my grandmother's best friend from the old country. And so I said, "This is very interesting." And what had occurred to me as I was sitting there just trying to think about what was going on, grateful that I found them and very grateful that I wasn't wasting a trip, what I found was I understood that those 3 ravens were the spirits of my mother, my grandmother, and Tante Rosie, and they were helping me. That changed my life. Once I realized that and understood it as a knowing as opposed to a belief or it's a coincidence, there was no coincidence about it. That really started my spiritual path to a degree that I knew I couldn't go back. And so even though I stayed in the professional careers for many, many, many years, ultimately what happened is I got kicked out of that company because I had, in my naivete, thought it was a good idea to bring them a buyout. And I had a nice hedge fund behind me to buy out the company. Wasn't well received. And so I left that company. And while I was unemployed, I decided to find art. And although I had been doing art my whole life, I hadn't been doing it recently. And while I was in the process of doing my art, I decided letting go was the best thing I could do. And I let go. even though I had given all my money in the second divorce to my wife, and at the same time, that was a good release. What had happened is a job came to me. It was an opportunity for me to start a company, and although that didn't succeed, it was a good platform. And then circuitous route. 10 years later, here I am, and I've decided that I'm just devoting all of my time and effort to what I believe is my passion, which is spiritual pursuits and art.